Hello everyone, how are you doing today? So this is my first time I'm gonna talk to you guys in the channel. So happy new year to everyone. Hopefully you have had a great end of the year. So this video is more about Canon R5C, and to scope it a little bit, it's like somebody who already has a Canon R5, if they move to this R5C, what kind of advantage or disadvantage they're gonna get. So another disclaimer is that this is a very camera equipment lens kind of video. So if you are normally coming to my channel to watch those beautiful nature photography and videos or those lovely travel vlogs, then this is not a video for you. This is more a nerdy topic. So decide whether you want to continue or not. So today I'm in this beautiful Chateaubriand. I actually came here to do a comparison of this Canon RF2470 and Canon RF24105, but I thought that this is an interesting time to probably discuss about this camera. So I read about this camera in this Canon rumor for some time now, and it was quite interesting for me because this camera kind of promises to bring some of the features that are kind of a little bit problematic in R5 and kind of fixes them. Now, how much problematic are those things in R5? So if you already have a R5, does this really make sense to kind of get rid of it and go and buy this new one? So that's what I'm going to discuss today basically. Now to scope this video a little bit more, I'm going to talk about more the features that I feel will be useful for me as a long-term R5 user. Now as you can see, I don't really have the camera. I'm not those YouTube influencers who kind of get a pre-production version of the camera and can play with that. Maybe Canon is listening, one day they will give me that. But anyway, so if you're interested on all kind of features and buttons and layers and everything of this camera, you can probably go and watch the video of Goran Lang. He did a great job with this camera and just published a video a couple of days back. It's very interesting. But I'm going to talk about some issues that I feel this camera is going to fix. First thing is that I thought that this camera is going to be extremely heavy, but it's not. It's kind of only a little bit heavy. It's a little bit bigger, but it's not really still dramatically bigger. So from size and weight point of view, it is manageable. Then comes the problem statement, right? So what are the bigger problem statements of R5? It was like the recording limit, the overheating, the poor quality of video in non-HQ mode. These three were the main problems of that, right? And then another thing was that this RAW shooting, they did not have this Canon RAW light option. So these are the three, four main topics that I am going to talk about in this video, and we'll see and we'll kind of discuss whether this is actually something that will change your life or my life or not. And based on that, the decision of buying this camera or replacing your R5 could be probably easier. The most interesting part of this camera, or the feature that I like, is the camera raw light. Yes, the R5 has this 8K RAW, but to be honest, it's not very manageable. The file sizes are awesomely big and you need a lot of memory cards, a lot of hard disks. The computer doesn't work very well with that. But this one has this camera raw light, which is normally a little bit lighter and much more manageable and gives you more or less a similar advantage of RAW. Now, only thing I did not get very well, and there was not much detail about it, is that it has this 8K camera raw light, which is an overkill, but it has this 4K and 6K. But the 6K sounds very good, but it uses this Super 35, so it kind of crops the video in a bit. So does it gonna give you the similar type of low light performance, dynamic range and everything? This is something that we should really keep an eye on. But to me, this is a feature is very, very interesting for me. If I ever buy the camera, I will buy for this feature and not for anything else basically. So now comes the next one, which is overheating. To me, that is probably much bigger of a problem. But again, is it really that big of a problem, or is it again something that has gone a little bit out of proportion? Now to me, in my last 1.5 years of usage, I only had one case where the overheating actually stopped me from shooting. That was in Maldives, where I was doing quite a lot of slow motions and suddenly the camera got overheated. Now that was before that last firmware, so I do not know whether I will again face this same situation or not. But yes, if you are really shooting longer clips for longer amount of time, the overheating does kick in. So this can be considered one of the issues that is fixed by R5C. But to me, it's again not a big deal if you are someone who is kind of using this camera for shorter clips like me, like using for travel vlogging or using for nature photography or nature videos, this is probably not gonna cause you that much of an issue. So again, I will not buy this camera only for the issue of overheating, for sure. Now the second one, which is kind of related to overheating a little bit as well, and probably a bigger problem, that is this non-HQ mode video quality on 4K. Now, this one is something that we have seen in many cases, many examples, that if you take a still frame from HQ video and a still frame from the non-HQ video, there is a big difference between these two. So up to quite some time, I also thought that it's really a big problem, and you can see it when you stop a video and compare them side by side, you will see it. But in my latest trip, there is something that happened and that made me think things a little bit differently. I was in Egypt and all those temples get very crowded, so I was going very early in the morning, and I used to have like an hour before all the hoods of crowd kind of jump into those temples. So I was very quickly changing settings and stuff like that. So when you move to like 4K 120 or 4K 60, the HQ gets switched off automatically, and then when go back to this 4K 30 or 23, 24, whatever you say, the HQ doesn't get switched on automatically. So you have to do it manually again. Now what happens sometimes is that you forget about it. And I did forget about it, and I realized it later. By that time the place was crowded, so I was quite unhappy that I did not manage to take all the images or all the videos that I wanted to take, and probably I get a bad quality. Then I came home and I kind of forgot about it. So I made the video, I rendered everything and all this stuff, and then I realized that, oh, hold on, some of the clips are not in 4K HQ. Then I said, okay, let's check that, because it's a good test of it. So what I did is I rendered the video and then ran the rendered video on my 37-inch 4K monitor. I ran it on my 55-inch 4K TV. I could not figure out which of those videos were actually not in 4K HQ mode. So basically that means once you process everything, it is very difficult to say which one was taken in HQ and which one was not. Sure, if you take one or look at one still frame and compare it with each other, there is a big difference. But the final product, there is not that much of a difference. So that kind of made me think that, so all those issues of the quality between 4K HQ and non-HQ, is that really that big of a difference on the final output? So then I started thinking that all these 4K HQ and non-HQ videos, the quality issues, are there really that big of a difference on the final output? Now I started doubting this, because I'm now not very sure about it. So maybe it's not. So I asked some of my friends to see that. I asked my wife, my son to see the video. They could not tell any difference from any of this. That means your viewers will actually not understand that. You will probably understand on your mind that this one I didn't capture in HQ, this one I captured in HQ and stuff like that. But the final output probably does not matter that much. So this R5C coming in with like everything kind of shoot at 4K HQ, is that gonna give you much more better image quality of the videos? Now I doubt. I'm not very sure. So this is probably also not a reason why I would change my R5 and go to this R5C. Another interesting thing is that this camera comes with dedicated menu for photography and videography, and the videography menu includes a lot of interesting features from the Cinema EOS. So probably tracking and monitoring your video is going to be better and easier. But again, the fact is that when you are on the field as a solo photographer or cameraman, it's very difficult to track with all those different tools. For me, the histogram is already good enough, and on those tiny screens, it's also very difficult to really see it. Now, if you have to carry a bigger screen, honestly, then you're not doing a run and gun. You're not going to the mountain anymore. You're doing more like a cinema work. And if you're doing a cinema work, then you have a crew. Then are we going to use this camera, or you're going to use something like a really Cinema EOS lineup? I'm not sure about it. So to me, yeah, they are theoretically quite useful tools, but I'm not very sure practically on the field how much useful it will be for me. So again, I will not buy this camera only for that feature. Now, one of the big concern I have about this camera is the battery life. Now, that is the biggest problem I have today with my R5. Not all those things to do with overheating and limit of 30 minutes or HQ quality and all this stuff. The battery life of R5 is really, really poor. and then you put in another fan into that one, so what will happen to that battery life? In my recently concluded trip of Egypt, by the way, I think you should watch that video. You can find that link of the video here. And I was in the desert for 4 nights. I had 7 batteries with a big power bank, solar charger, and it was not enough. The battery was running out like hell in a quite warm temperature. I did not have overheating issue even inside the desert, but our biggest issue was this running out of battery. Now, I'm extremely concerned that this camera will have serious issues with battery. Now, yes, you can put this massive chunky battery grip, but then you lose all those weight and size benefit of mirrorless. So what's the advantage of buying this one over C70 or any other US cinema cameras? I'm confused here. Now, another big issue I see with this camera is the noise from the fan. Now, it is not really a problem for me because almost always I use a lav mic. So from quite far, it's probably not that much of a problem. But I saw that most of the YouTubers, they kind of use a microphone on the top of the camera. And this noise from the fan will be all captured on that microphone. So I'm not sure that noise, how much practical it is for most of the YouTubers. Again, if you are doing professional work where you have external microphones and stuff, fair enough. But then again, then you wouldn't use a light and small camera anymore, right? You would rather go for a Cinema EOS or even a RAID or something like that. So where exactly Canon is placing this camera in? So my take about this camera is like this. Canon really wanted to compete with Sony to produce a camera that can produce similar way the image and videos. So they came up with this R5, a mirrorless camera, which is actually pretty good. Then they were criticized for all this overheating and non-HQ video quality, which is kind of true, but as I said, that it kind of went a little bit out of proportion, and especially YouTube, which is a big forum, and influencers kind of made it a little bit a bigger deal than what it is. So now they came up with this R5C as an intermediate answer for that one. Now, is it really an answer? It's like a bumped up, beefed up R5 with some additional menu features and stuff, and a fan. There was other cases where people were trying to kind of put a fan into that one, so they just took that concept, took the same R5, changed the menu system, added some stuff here and there, and said, okay, here is another camera for you. I used to have a relative who is in marketing, and they used to say that, you know, marketing has some jargons, which is this double C. So if you cannot convince someone, confuse them, and they will be confused and end up buying something from you. So this strategy of R5C seems something similar to me, that confuse the people, give them an R6 and R5 and R5R and R5C and God knows what. They will be very confused. They're already invested on Canon lenses and stuff like that, and then they're gonna buy something from them, and I'm gonna get some money out of it while I still figure out how to really make a R5 that works similarly as A7S or Sony A1 or something like that, or while we are making a Canon R1 or something like that. So this is my take on this camera, something intermediate to kind of push the sale out a bit more beginning of 2022, and they will come up with something else after that. A lot of people in YouTube is saying that this is what R5 should have been, and I kind of agree with that, but without that fan. That fan seems to be really a workaround to me. Now in a camera which already has a battery life issue, adding an additional fan without doing anything about battery is not a good idea. To me, it all looks like a workaround to compete in the current market and get some cash out of people. So I would still hold on for giving a pre-order to this camera and understand what the reality of this camera is. So what do you guys think? Please let me know your opinion in the comment below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. That means a lot to me. And if you have not already done it, please subscribe and press the bell icon to get notification of my upcoming videos. So that's it for now. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you soon. Ciao for now.